I married my wife Anne about 3 months ago. The other night we were sitting at our table having some wine after dinner. We were just doing our usual joking around and being playful before we started getting into some deep talks. She asked me what was the worst job you've ever had, just the most annoying place you've ever worked for. And normally I'd just give some bullshit answer about how I used to work a job in retail or the food industry. But I was in a bit of a talkative mood, so I gave the real answer. When I was 16, I used to babysit this 8-year-old girl that lived on my street. Samantha. Her parents knew my parents, and so it was a pretty chill gig. Sam's parents would go out to dinner or a movie or something, and I'd just feed her some mac and cheese, then tuck her in. I made like $50 a night, which was a lot of cash as a teenager. I did the job several times a week for about 6 months, but there was a good stretch of time during the final month I babysat where things started to get weird. At first I thought it was just Sam's imagination running wild, as children's minds do, but I quickly realized she was never lying. She was always 100% honest. It started with something simple. I got her ready for bed and she came downstairs saying that there was something in her closet. So I took her back up the stairs and showed her nothing was there. But she kept insisting something was there. After a couple nights of her saying something was in her closet, whatever this thing was started moving around. She started saying it was under her bed, then in the hallway, until he finally settled on being on her ceiling. And that's where he stayed. She always complained something was on her ceiling, and I'd have to read her a little bedtime story to help her go to bed. But then even weirder things started happening. She would say stuff moved on its own and her door would open and close by itself. But the thing always stayed on the ceiling. So finally my curiosity got the best of me and I asked her, "Sam, what does this thing look like?" And when I asked, I saw her take the question really seriously. I should have known then that she wasn't lying. He's tall, with no hair. And ... She was really struggling with this final detail. "It's okay, Sam. You can tell me." She swallowed before saying, "He has no eyes." Even then it scared me. And even though I had a perfect description of him, it couldn't prepare me for when I finally saw him. This entity started making it so Sam couldn't fall asleep. So she would become sleep deprived and start hallucinating. She would start screaming randomly and she'd have to hide in my arms until her parents got home. I tried warning her parents, but they just kept chalking it up to kids being kids. It got worse and worse with each passing night. Then one night I was with Sam, trying to calm her down while she cried. But then I started to doze off and so did she. After I was asleep for a while I opened my eyes but I couldn't move. I tried yelling for help but my mouth wouldn't move either. Then I noticed him, out of the right corner of my eye. I saw a tall gangly man. He had no hair on his body and just like Sam had said, he had no eyes, not even holes or conclaves where his eyes would be. Just a flat surface from his forehead to his nose. His skin was pale but there were these markings all over him. Some markings were black, others were red and looked as if they were bleeding. I tried screaming but it was pointless. He approached me and stroked my cheek with his finger. Even without his eyes I could tell he was studying me. He ran his fingers through my hair, rubbed my earlobes, and grabbed my face, yanking it left and right to get a better look at me. He leaned in closer to me and I heard him sniff. He started licking his lips as he continued sniffing near my neck. He opened his mouth and let out one big sigh. I started shivering. The room became ice cold. I tried moving my arms to warm myself up, but I still sat there unable to move. Tears began to roll down my face. I couldn't respond. I couldn't fight him. But worst of all, I couldn't help Sam. The man reached down and grabbed her face with his hand, and right before my eyes I saw the color leave her body. Tears were now flowing. He held her mouth shut and looked up at me. I saw one of the red markings on his hand stop bleeding and turn black like the others. Then before I knew it, he was gone, and I was left holding Sam's corpse. The cops came and her parents were in agony for several years. Her father never stopped blaming me for it. I tried telling the cops what I saw, but they didn't believe me. Her autopsy report just showed that her heart had failed. A kid gone too soon to natural causes, they called it. I'll never forget how scared she was. How I wish I could have done more to help her. My wife was in tears the whole story. "I'm so sorry, Elliot. You did what you could." She stroked my cheek. "So yeah, that's the worst job I've ever had. Just would be curious to hear some of your guys' worst job experiences. I'll be up late reading comments. I've been having trouble sleeping, and as I sit here finishing this post, I swear I keep hearing something in my closet.